Hey everyone, welcome to PunkCast. My name is William Maxwell. I'm a student of Web3 and the owner of Punk954. CryptoPunks are 10,000 uniquely generated characters stored permanently on the Ethereum blockchain. No punk is the same. This is a show dedicated to celebrating the punks behind the punk. My hope for this podcast is that we capture the essence of the punk culture, elevate the brand and the individual behind the punk. One last thing. Projects discussed on the show is not financial advice. Crypto and NFTs are a volatile and risky asset class. Please always do your own research. Other than that, let's go.
Hi everyone, welcome back to another episode of PunkCast. Today we're back with Punk954, a dev punk with 3 Atties, frumpy hair, earring and nerd glasses. In real life, she's the founder of Merch, a Web3 fashion and culture house. Please welcome Colby to the show. Colby, how are you?
Hi, I'm great, thank you. Thanks so much for having me.
Likewise. This is going to be an interesting call. I think you only bought your punk about a month ago, but you've been doing a lot of things with it and very active on Twitter at the moment with Merch. So I'd love to sort of unpack your story. Maybe we can just start with the typical question in terms of what's the story behind your handle? I know you go on as Colby, but your Twitter actual handle is muse. What's the story behind that?
So before I got introduced to the Web3 space, which was in March of 2021, I was a writer and I had a website called Muse, where I would create original content surrounding the history of art, fashion, architecture, and design. And I launched that in November 2017 after I graduated from the Gallatin School at NYU, where I studied art history and fashion business. And the Gallatin School is a school of interdisciplinary study. So you can take whatever courses you want and create a major based off, the courses that you took throughout the 4 years. So I really responded to that approach to education and academics. So when I graduated, I decided to make a career of it and really to launch a website where I was writing and creating all this original content surrounding the different fields I loved. So yeah, art, fashion, architecture, design. And the name Muse stems from when I was a little girl. I've been fashion obsessed since I was, 6 or 7 years old. So when I was, I think about 7 or 8, when all my friends dreamt of becoming actors or singers when they grew up, I always dreamt of becoming a fashion designer's muse. So that is specifically John Galliano or Marc Jacobs. And that is where that's where the name comes from. And I still dream of becoming a fashion designer's muse. So but it was kind of a perfect meeting of the minds when I started exploring the Web3 space, given that I already kind of had this pseudo anonymous personality in what I was doing, and I already went by the name Muse, so it ended up being a perfect fit.
Oh, nice. Any chance of you going back to Mini or people calling you Mini in real life, or just for the Web3 space?
It's funny. People do call me Mini. Some intentionally, some unintentionally. Obviously, everyone knows who's behind Muse, so I'm not fully anon, but I do really love, I love, the name, I love the context, and I think it fully speaks, obviously, to, still what we're doing at Merch and my personality, both in the digital sense and also in the physical world.
Awesome. Well, you started talking a little bit about your background there and, being fashion obsessed at 6 or 7 years old. Could you share a little bit more about your background and everything sort of pre-crypto and Merch?
Absolutely. So I grew up in Chicago, and my mom is an interior designer. So I grew up around fabric samples, lots of magazines, and I was always obsessed with fashion, like since before I can even remember. And during New York and Paris Fashion Week, when I was young, my mom would come up to wake me up for school, and I would set my alarm for 5 a.m. and she would say, "Why are you awake?" I'm like, "Well, it's Paris Fashion Week. I need to see the runway shows before I go to school, of course." So it was just really in my blood, I think, since I was a little girl, and I see it. I have two little girls now, one who's 3.5, and she loves music and dancing, and it's just, you can't, I don't think you can teach that level of passion. I think you're born with it. And that's how I was towards fashion. So I started working at a very young age. Instead of going to summer camp, I always wanted to get a job. I started working at, clothing stores during the summer. My school in Chicago had this week called Project Week, which was the week before spring break, where you could either go on a school sponsored trip around the world, you could stay in Chicago and take an intensive cooking course or learn how to build a robot, or you can get an internship. So at the time, we had a dear family friend who was the head of Bergdorf Goodman, which is, a really high end multi-brand retailer department store in New York. And so my mom asked him if he would by any chance be able to get me a 1-week internship at a fashion designer in New York City. So I gave him a list of 3 names, and the top of the list was a designer named Philip Lim. And this was, I think, around 2008. And, Philip had just launched, he was one of the hottest names in fashion. So I got this 1-week internship with Philip. I ended up coming home a few days later asking if we could cancel our spring break, that, Philip said I could stay for 2 more weeks. So I stayed there for 3 weeks. He introduced me to the editor of Teen Vogue, and Teen Vogue actually hired me as their Teen Fashion Week correspondent. So I started covering the fashion shows for Teen Vogue from a teen's perspective. And that's actually when I initially launched Mini Muse in high school as, just sort of a pet project, really being so inspired by fashion and what I was doing for Teen Vogue during Fashion Week. I wanted an outlet for my ideas and creativity for the other 50 weeks a year where, I wasn't covering the shows. So I launched the first version of Mini Muse, which was where I would make art and fashion comparisons. And again, it was just sort of a pet project. I moved to New York in 2011 to go to the Gallatin School at NYU. I graduated in 2015. As I mentioned, I studied art history and fashion business. And then I launched, the more professional version of Mini Muse in November 2017, and kept up with it for about 5 years full time until I just kind of got a little taste of Web3 in spring of 2021. And that's sort of what led me on the trajectory towards founding Merch.
Amazing. I always ask this question for people that go to university and pick a sort of discipline. Why did you study art history of all the things you could have chosen, given that you're so passionate about fashion?
Well, at that point, I mean, I was equally as passionate about art. So, the original kind of 1.0 version of Mini Muse was art and fashion. And actually, I was also working for W Magazine at that moment, doing these art and fashion comparisons for W. So in terms of why I chose art history, I believe no matter what you're studying, whether you're studying politics or economics or psychology, I think art history should be a requirement for any undergrad. I think, art history is world history in a lot of ways. And there's never a moment where I can't pull from some of the knowledge I learned at school in my art history courses and apply them to present day conversation, or whether it be about the arts or whether it be about something completely unrelated. So I really value the courses I took at school, specifically those relating to art history.
Amazing. I could sort of relate to that. I think I got into art only through NFTs, and I could probably only appreciate history because of that, right? And I think I'm nerding out on history now and trying to pick up all the lost gaps as well. So you're probably spot on. Probably should have picked that up a little bit earlier.
I mean, I'm just curious, has your interest in NFTs then expanded to interest in, broader art history or just history in general?
Both. Absolutely both. I think there's a lot of similarities with the NFT market and the traditional art world market in terms of how over years, you talk about CryptoPunks in terms of what accrues value. It's attention and a story and a narrative and a cultural relic at a cultural point in time. And those things I found really interesting. And then I think that's why, I mean, I never appreciated the Mona Lisa and all these famous artworks people keep talking about, but they were just cultural points in time that just were symbolic of something special. And that's something that I didn't really understand at the time. And I think NFT sort of opened up that door for me, which is kind of nice. So yeah, I'm making up for lost time now. um, so
Yeah, it's never too late to learn. It's never too late to learn.
yeah, and absolutely. And I think every time I go to New York, I was in New York earlier this year for Punk's brunch, hosting that with the guys there. But just nerded around in the Met. You guys have got one of the best museums ever. I mean, sorry, I'm just nerding out here, but sort of that just sort of strikes a chord with me. Art history probably is a sort of study of world history in some ways.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yeah, the Metropolitan in New York is incredible. Like I said, I grew up in Chicago, and the Art Institute in Chicago is, every time we go back and I visit the Art Institute, I'm just amazed at what an unbelievable museum and unbelievable collection it has.
Yeah, absolutely. So 2017, you started picking up mini muse full time, and then you said you sort of got into Web3 and had a bit of a taste. What was your entry into Web3? How did you discover Web3? Like, what was that like?
Well, my husband, and I think my story sounds, I think, very similar to a lot of traditional members of the art world. Their story is, when they first kind of heard the word NFT. But my husband is an art dealer. So when the Beeple sale happened at Christie's, it obviously, shook the world up, but really had an intense effect on the traditional art world and the dynamics of the traditional art world. So he started getting inundated with calls about, who's this artist Beeple? What's an NFT? Why have you never offered me a Beeple? And and I'm a research junkie, like through and through, as you could, tell by any of the articles that I posted on Minimuse. I love researching. I love finding common ground between different creative fields. I love looking at sort of contextualizing current moments through, the lens of history. And so I just started researching NFTs, Web3. At the time, the metaverse was the big buzzword, and realized pretty instantaneously that this is where the future of my brand should live. This is as if I had started Minimuse 20 years earlier at the beginning of the .com boom. This is the future of everything. The NFT space, but specifically also kind of blockchain technology. And I knew that it wasn't the future of my brand in this space wasn't necessarily original content like I was doing at the time with Minimuse, but I knew that, this is something that I had to learn about. And this is, where the world is headed. So that was sort of my entree into Web3. I went all in. I was like obsessive, just trying to learn, trying to understand as much as I could, trying to set up a wallet, trying to fund the wallet. And actually it was CryptoPunks that was the first collection that I really took a deep dive into, and was really my way into the space, and was, the first collection I really understood and recognized and really appreciated in the space.
Wow, of all the different sort of avenues there, so People Sold, which was huge. We've had Noah on the podcast as well, so he goes into talking about that Beeple sale, which is kind of crazy, 69 million back in the day as well. But how did you find out about CryptoPunks through your research? Was it just browsing and scrolling through Google, or did you have somebody that was close to the NFT space and sort of said, "Hey, you got to check out CryptoPunks"?
I think at that moment, it was really just like a matter of Googling things, like Googling NFTs, Googling like, what is a PFP? Like the most basic kind of entry level questions that you could possibly feed into Google, I think is probably where I was at that point. And this is obviously, pre Bored Apes. So CryptoPunks was definitely the, predominant project in the space, as I think it, still, we would all agree it still is. But it was pre, Bored Ape Mania and all of that. So I think every question I Googled, like CryptoPunks was kind of the top answer, no matter what information it was that I was looking for. But yeah, I first wanted to start understanding just the mechanics and the technology and like what does generative mean? What is like I said, what is a PFP? Kind of just the most basic knowledge that I could acquire and then building off of that. And obviously, we were talking earlier about kind of how we relate everything back to art history, but specifically the connections that you can draw between NFTs and the history of art. And as, someone that loves and appreciates the history of art, I immediately saw CryptoPunks and thought of Warhol's society portraits. And so for me, that was a really kind of easy way to contextualize and understand and absorb the project through the lens of art history.
Can you elaborate on that a little bit more around how you saw the similarities of with the Warhol portraits?
Yeah, I mean, definitely for me, like Warhol portraits are the original PFPs, and it's funny to think about. Andy Warhol was so prolific and passed away at such a young age. I think he was like 57 or 58 when he passed away. And it's interesting to think about what he would be doing today, and he would without question be in the space and be utilizing the blockchain in some way. And yeah, so he started making society portraits. I think in the mid to late 60s, and I think there's about under 1,000 he made throughout his career. I think he died in the late 80s. And he wanted to capture the most notable individuals of the day. He was obsessed with celebrity. He was obsessed with sort of wealth. He was obsessed with class. And so for him, it was, doing these portraits of these upper echelon individuals that was really capturing a moment in time and the seriality involved in them, which, I obviously see so directly as part of, the CryptoPunk kind of mechanics and framework, and this idea of attributes and how Warhol would use colors and he would use texture and he would use the silk screening method to depict these figures. And I see as breaking down, sort of understanding the structure of punks, whether it be all the different attributes and the number of traits that a punk has, or the skin tone, or obviously the male versus female. So all of those elements were present in Warhol's portraits. And then again, Warhol was how he created these portraits was very analog generative in a way. As I mentioned, there's seriality of imagery. Some portraits he would use the same silk screen and make multiple iterations of a single image. I'm sure you've seen. There's a number of people that have the 2x2 grid of their portraits by Warhol that are all like slightly different. He would reuse colors. And then, some are super, super minimal. Some are even just kind of monochrome in the sense that, it's a single color canvas with the silkscreen on top. Others have a lot more kind of detail and texture, and a lot more colors. So I think there's so many parallels that you can draw, not only in terms of like meaning and narrative and artistic intent, but just in terms of, the finished product and the end image and the collection as a whole.
Amazing. Thanks for. I love the fact that I get to chat to an art historian and pick your brain on this too, because I'm getting to learn so much more about traditional art space as well. And yeah, oh man, that's amazing. So like as an art historian, just digressing a little bit straight into CryptoPunks now, and I know we still need to have a chat about your backstory and merch, but as an art historian, how do you see CryptoPunks from a history point of view? Do you think it's too early to look at the history of CryptoPunks? It's like 7 years, but do you think there's enough substance there to warrant research and building out a story and narrative around it?
I mean, absolutely. Like, I think that CryptoPunks will be the project that in 100 years from now, people look back on art history and CryptoPunks will be part of that narrative without question. Similar to how, again, there's so many just natural analogies that you can draw between Andy Warhol and not only punks, but just the space in general as capturing a moment in time. And, in many ways, what Warhol was doing with the silk screening was, mechanical. And a lot of people didn't think that it was real art because of the method through which he was creating works. Kind of the nonchalant, method of production of the silk screen that people didn't respect at the time. And I think you can see a lot of parallels drawn between how the traditional art world may look at digital art today and NFTs today, where in reality, I think this is the future. And I think CryptoPunks will go down in history as the preeminent project that, defines this genre of work and really kind of, expanded the art world in a way that we haven't seen since the invention of the camera, where suddenly an entirely new um, definition of artist exists, which is, the photographer. And to me, it was really exciting to discover not only NFTs, but start learning about generative art, both in the sense of, PFPs and then also in the sense of, non-PFP generative art. And to think how it expands the meaning of artists to involve not only painters and sculptors and photographers, but, engineers and coders.
Oh, wow. I had no idea Andy Warhol's silk screens were not sort of seen as art at that point in time. So it took a while for everybody to catch on to that trend. And I guess the other question for you then is like, when do you think people actually consider punks in that caliber as art? Like, do you think it's like 10 years from now, 20 years from now, or do you think it's like long after Matt and John are gone?
I mean, I hope it's not when I hope it's now. I hope it's today. And I think you do start to see it. I think there's certain projects in the space that the traditional art world maybe doesn't even know of or doesn't even understand or might not consider to be um real art in the sense that they would consider a de Kooning painting to be. But I do think that there is a certain um sort of higher level that punks have been considered, and I do think there's a certain level of respect towards the punk project, whether people understand it fully or just understand and recognize the images.
You know,
Punks, I think, are seen as the preeminent project of the space.
amazing. That's what I love to hear. And I'm sure most
And
of the listeners would be the same as well. Um, and then maybe switching gears a little bit back. I know we sort of digressed a little bit from your story, but tell us a little bit more about merch. What was the sort of inspiration around merch? And I guess what is it exactly?
So Merch is a Web3 native generative fashion brand. I mentioned, when I first got introduced to the space, I knew that this is my future. And I was trying to, think of, okay, how do I exist in this space? And obviously, as you know, since I was a young girl, I always saw the world through fashion tinted lenses. So I knew I wanted to do something with fashion. And my first idea was I had acquired some land in the metaverse, and I wanted to be the Web3 native partner to onboard, uh, luxury brands into the space. So I pitched to a few brands I had existing relationships with, saying, why don't we partner on a pop up shop? You can build a virtual pop up shop on my virtual land, and we can, release a collection of virtual products as NFTs that are backed by physical versions. So not only did I understand I wanted to do something with fashion in the space, but I knew there needed to be a digital physical element to it. So I had a number of conversations, no brand was ready to take that plunge yet. So fast forward to August of 2021, I first stumbled upon art blocks. I started learning about generative art. And that's when the light bulb went off. And I immediately thought, why has no one ever applied a generative design process towards physical product, specifically fashion related product? Um, and it's funny, even though I have loved fashion since I was a little girl, I never wanted to be a fashion designer per se. So I didn't know as much about the complexities of manufacturing as I do about fashion history. So it was so obvious to me that, this is an idea that has never been explored before. Like we can create using generative design, we can create one of one product at scale. And I'm like, why has no one ever done this? And, all the initial conversations I had with people that are really have had long careers in the space and understand manufacturing, they're like, yeah, no one's done this because it's a ridiculous idea and it can't be it can't be done. Uh, the more times I heard that from people, the more I was determined to actually see this vision through. Of course, naturally. So, that's kind of what led me on this journey towards founding and developing merch and taking it to market. So I worked on it for about 2.5 years full time before we actually launched this past spring. And as I mentioned, Merch is a Web3 native generative fashion brand. So all of our products are designed through algorithms. They all get released as NFTs through a mint, and then they're all redeemable for one of one physicals of whichever composition of product you have in your artwork. So in terms of how we approach generative design, first we choose a silhouette. So our Genesis drop was hoodies, and then we break down the silhouette into design traits. So and actually, just to preface this, I developed this entire process in terms of Merch's approach to generative design based off the structure of CryptoPunks. So I was studying the structure of CryptoPunks very closely in understanding traits and attributes and rarity values. And, I loved the fact that a zero trait punk is ultra rare and the 7 trait punk is, so sort of studying that bell curve of rarity distribution is something that I fully applied to how we structure merch. So we break down, as I mentioned, we choose a silhouette, we break it down into design traits. So for a hoodie, there's 6 design traits: the hood, the body, the pocket, each sleeve, and then the bands, the waistband and wristband. So you can picture, each of those as like a little puzzle piece. And then for the Genesis drop, we then defined the design attributes, so color, pattern, and material. And we assigned rarity values to each attribute. So some colors were more rare than others, some patterns were more rare than others, and there were 2 materials. Then we built our bespoke algorithm with all of those inputs, and and it created all of the one of one outputs. So there were 960 one of one hoodies. 860 of them had the material attribute of French terry. So if your NFT said French terry under material in the metadata, and you redeem your physical, you get a really high end French terry cut and sew hoodie. But 100 of them were cashmere. So, it really plays into that element of scarcity and kind of that collector urge towards rarity. And so it was really exciting, and it still excites me to kind of study all of these nuances and mechanics that are really native to the Web3 space, particularly, but also just the space of collectibles in general, and figuring out how we can apply some of those mechanics to original products, specifically fashion products.
That's super cool. I'm actually just browsing the Christie's website as you're
Oh,
sort of
yeah.
talking, because and I said to see like 5 of the hoodies here, and so for example, hoodie 1, the estimates are different. Is that because of the rarities?
Yeah. So this new drop, so, we're just releasing our second drop the Christie sale just went live. So there were a few different pieces of feedback we got from our Genesis drop that we were able to implement into this second drop. And, I, as you know now, and as I'm sure we'll get to, this second drop is it's in collaboration with Seed Phrase. and it's all based off his 7-trait CryptoPunk. So we started working with Danny, and using his to tie back to Mini Muse, we're using his 7-trait punk as our muse for this drop. So we extracted the color palette from the punk. We narrowed it down to 7 colors. We added a
Cool.
we added a hoodie, a drawstring to the hoodie to make it 7 traits. As I mentioned, our first drop, the hoodie was 6 traits. It didn't have a drawstring. So this hoodie is 7 traits. And then one of the elements that we noticed from our Genesis drop was that collectors didn't really put any emphasis on rarity of colors, for example. It didn't seem that anyone cared that, red was more rare than pink. So instead, we structured this drop where every output is a core style. There's 9 core styles, and then there's rarity to the styles. So there's monochrome, for example, which is all solid. And each color exists once as a solid monochrome hoodie, all the way up to decentralized, which is fully color blocked. Every trait is a different color.
Gotcha.
And then there's 9 styles within this drop. But to your question about rarity, so similar to how Cashmere functioned for our first drop to signal the ultra rare outputs, I brought in Swarovski, and we did a partnership with Swarovski for this drop. And Swarovski has created 22 cord ends. So the pulls for the hoodie drawstring, we have done in collaboration with Swarovski. So 22 of the 322 outputs in this first drop will feature Swarovski cord ends. And there's 5 designs within those 22, each based off of one of the traits of Seed Phrases Punk. So there's the top hat, the glasses, the cigarette, the earring, and the buck teeth. The earring, cigarette, glasses, and top hat are all Swarovski crystals set in sterling silver, but the buck teeth are actually real diamonds, hand set in 14 karat white gold. So, and we're doing a sale at Christie's, which actually just launched today. It's open for bidding now. So one of each of those 5 different Swarovski cord end designs, we are auctioning off one of each output at Christie's. So the difference in price is represented by which ones are crystal versus the lot 2, which is hoodie 000, is
Sure.
a black monochrome with the diamond cord ends.
Yeah, that one looks cool. These look really plush and lush.
Oh my gosh. And I'm sorry, I'm just looking at it. It already has 17 bids. It's just open
Yeah,
for bidding. This is so exciting.
nice. Wow, that was current bid at 3,200. So
Yeah.
almost a little bit over an 8.
Wow.
Yeah, so
Wow.
I might have to try and get this podcast out a little bit early. So
Yeah. Well, yeah. There's hopefully we'll have more than 17 bids.
yeah.
The sale just went live 37 minutes ago.
Wow. So okay. So the Christie's ones, there's only 5 lots at Christie's, and then is there like another drop that you're doing? Because I thought I saw it was like 300,
Yeah,
supply 300 on.
correct. So, one of the other pieces of feedback we got from collectors surrounding our Genesis drop was they would have paid a significant price premium to be guaranteed a cashmere. So this is our version of, responding to that piece of feedback and giving collectors the opportunity to be guaranteed if they want the diamond hoodie, it's there, it's at Christie's, it's open for auction, it goes to the highest bidder. So that's why we're selling 5 hoodies at Christie's, and then the other 317 from the collection are being sold through a mint through our website, which the allow list window opens October 1st at 10 a.m. Eastern, and then closes at 10 a.m. Eastern October 2nd, which is at the same time as the Christie sale. The Christie sale is open till 10 a.m. Eastern October 2nd. And then at 11 a.m. Eastern, our public mint opens through our website as well. So
Gotcha.
there's one diamond hoodie going to that is at Christie's, and then the other diamond hoodie is in our public mint. So, which is what I love that mechanic so much. To me, elements that are obviously very native to the Web3 space and an NFT, the process of minting is, expected in the NFT space. But for me, coming from traditional fashion, the idea of everyone paying the same amount for something, but some people getting a more rare output than others, and like not knowing exactly what you've got until it goes into your wallet. When you apply that thinking and that process to fashion, I just think is so exciting. Like that gamified element, it makes things fun, it makes things cool. Like everyone gets a great output, but if you have the chance of landing in diamond one or a Swarovski crystal one, like that gamification layer to me is incredibly exciting when you think about it in the context of fashion.
No, I think you've done it really well. In some ways, like I'm always. I mean, if I was to be honest with you, I've got about 50 different hoodies from different collections, NFT collections at home that I just don't use. I just pack them up. But I mean, you've done this really nice. I think there's a nice touch of luxury to it and a bit of fun. And it sort of signals back to the provenance of punks as well. And I'm just looking at the Swarovski crystals that you've got on the on them. I'm looking at the cigarette. I'm eyeing the cigarette trait, which is kind of nice too, next to
The cigarette one is incredible. I mean, they're honestly, they're all so amazing. I'm so proud of what we were able to do with this drop. And on top of that, and one of the most important pieces of the puzzle is our collaborating artist, which is Claire Silver. And Claire has created an extraordinary collection of artworks for this drop. So not only do you get a Claire Silver artwork featuring a figure wearing your one of one hoodie, but you also get the one of one hoodie. And to me, that is like mind blowing when you just think about the history of fashion and the importance of lookbooks and fashion editorials. And to apply that thinking to, if you approach the collection that Claire created for this as a decentralized lookbook or a decentralized fashion editorial, where you not only can own the garment in the image, but you own the image. And I think it's a really strong narrative around that I think, everyone's thinking about, digital fashion, or how will the traditional fashion world, how will they kind of implement and react to blockchain technology. And I think that decentralized lookbook element and idea is something that, will become more prevalent and is something that, fashion designers and fashion brands and houses should explore.
It's super exciting, super fun too. I'm not sure if I would actually wear it, because I always spill stuff on my shirts all the time, and probably have to keep it at home.
Yeah.
So okay,
Well,
so
it's meant to be worn, but I also understand that urge, to have it just at home and have it be more of a work of art and a sculpture.
so okay, for those that want to get their hands on one, so you've got two options. You either go to the Christie's auction and you bid for those rare ones, or there's a white list or allow list for the 322 hoodies that you can
Correct.
mint. Is that right?
Yes. So, well, there's 322 total in the collection. 5 of them are being sold at Christie's. And those 5 are, the sale is now open for bidding, and it closes at 10 a.m. Eastern, October 2nd.
Gotcha.
So 322 in the collection minus 5, so 317 will be in our mint. So collectors can come to merch mmerch.xyz beginning October 1st at 10 a.m. is our allow list period. There's a 24-hour allow list period, which we have allow listed the entire punk community. We've allow
Amazing.
listed Clear Silver Corpo Reel holders. We have allow listed merch Genesis holders of our post-claim collection. So collectors who have redeemed their physicals and now have post-claim NFTs, that entire collection has been allow listed, as well as, some additional wallets of raffle winners and so on that we have collected over the last few months. And then, anyone that is a Claire one of one holder can absolutely message us and we will add them to the allow list as well. But it was really important for us for this drop to engage the punk community. It's obviously the drop is so punk centric while using seed phrases punk as the muse and seed phrase being our collaborator. It was really important to us that the collection spoke as fully to the collection as the punk collection as a whole and the whole punk community. And I'm really proud how we were able to accomplish that through abstracting elements of seed phrases 7 trait and making it really universal for punks as a whole.
Gotcha. And so when you sort of say based on C phrases, is it just those mix of colors that's available out of the whole 300 collection based on? So if I go to the grub, I think there are 9 sort of variations of colors and
If you go to
styles.
our website and you view the drop, there's 7 colors. So we extracted his palette of his punk and we narrowed it down to 7 colors. And then there's 9 different styles. So a style is monochrome. There's one called righty, which is when the whole hoodie is one color except the right sleeve is a different color. There's one called I mentioned decentralized, which is where every part of the hoodie is a different color. There's one called trilogy, which is the hood and the pocket are the same color, the body and the bands, and then the 2 sleeves. So there's different combinations. Every output is still one of one because there's different variations within those style buckets. But we found that collectors with the Genesis drop really responded to how resolved those styles felt. And liked a little, they're still random, they're still generative, but there's a little bit more structure to the drop than there was to our Genesis drop.
Sure. And have you determined a mid price yet?
Oh, the mint price. We are thinking around 0.269 ETH for the allow list window, and then 0.317 for the main mint. Again, those numbers have not been set in stone, but that's
Gotcha.
what we're thinking right now.
Oh, the punk discount, love it. Awesome. So you mint it, you get an NFT, and I think you've got here. It's from the artist Die with most likes, which is pretty cool. It goes through a reveal. Is that right? Am I getting that right?
Well, we actually you do also get a die with the most likes receipt token. So that was one of the mechanics that we introduced for our Genesis drop, where again, me thinking about, okay, how let's walk through, how you transact in a retail environment. If you buy something, you get a receipt for your purchase. So we commissioned Die to do our receipt token. So at Mint and at Claim, you will get a die with the most likes receipt token, which is an ERC 1155 token. And it's just, expands our ecosystem and ability to support artists in the space. So we're planning on commissioning a new artist each year to do our receipt token artwork. And B, it's just another lever that we are able to pull in the future in terms of, rewarding our collectors, offering preferred access, using the receipt tokens potentially for burn mechanics. So it's just, an added layer to this merch ecosystem that we're building.
Gotcha. Super cool. How did you manage all this? You managed to get Swarovski on board, Seed Phrase and Clear Silver, and really
And
2 top
Christie, and
punks
Christie.
and Christie's as
Don't
well.
forget Christie.
Um, you've been quietly cooking for the last 2 years, and no, this is exciting. Congratulations on getting it this far.
Thank you.
I had no idea it was like this.
I don't know how we managed it, to be honest with you. I don't know. We had an incredible event last night at the Swarovski store on Fifth Avenue. Seed Phrase and I in conversation with Nicole from Christie's, head of digital art at Christie's. And it was just, Matt and John came, which was just beyond incredible. They're so amazing. Obviously, we all love and respect them and understand what living legends they are, but just to see them in the flesh and to see them at our event it was like a pinch me moment. I'm still on cloud 9. It was really, It was amazing. It just the community that came to show their support, both existing, merch collectors. There were so many merch Genesis hoodies in the audience. We introduced this really incredible piece of utility last week, which allowed collectors to RSVP through their hoodie. So every merch hoodie has an NFC chip, which takes you to your wearable wallet. And
What?
there, yeah. So we got so many RSVPs to this event through people RSVPing through their hoodie. Like it, and that to me is the future. When you think about connected products, you think about digital physical utility, like it's mind blowing to me. I still can't believe that we have dreamt up all of these incredible, products, utilities, ideas, and brought them to market in such a short period of time. So I'm so proud of my team, and I can't wait to see, what we do next.
Amazing. I can't wait to see either. Definitely put me down for the allow list. That's amazing.
Of
Uh,
course, of
and
course.
it's and you're onto something. I think there's something special about augmenting the digital element with the physical element and connection element of in real life sort of components of that, right? And I think you might be onto something there. It's kind of nice.
Absolutely. Thank you. One thing that I think there were so many learnings from our Genesis drop, and I really view our Genesis drop as the culmination of 2.5 years of work and just seeing this idea through to market, releasing merch into the world. But I really feel like this drop two, this collaboration with Seed Phrase is the true merch, like distilled down to its purest form. And one of the biggest, not pivots, but just evolutions of the original concept was I pre pre Genesis drop, I would have said that the redemption of the physical sort of represents the end of that product journey. Whereas today, as you can see through the utility that I just described, enabling collectors to RSVP to our IRL events through their hoodie, like to me, I think the redemption of the physical is really in a way only the beginning of the journey now. And that's something that we're really looking to expand on and really excited to explore.
Amazing. Well, looking forward to it, and looking forward to what you guys do next as well. And but maybe one last question before we move on to a little bit more around your sort of punk journey. But of all the collections you could have leaned into, why did you choose CryptoPunks, Seed Phrase, and Clear Silver, and the like for this drop?
I mean, CryptoPunks because you don't get more iconic than CryptoPunks. Like it's to me, CryptoPunks are the quiet luxury collection of the NFT space. It's just like it's like a mic drop moment. So I absolutely like through and through just have so much love and respect for this project and through the community of collectors that I have now met through being in the CryptoPunk community. But also all roads lead back to Seed Phrase. He is a dear he is
Gotcha.
an advisor of merch, an investor in merch. He so generously lent us his full set of autoglyphs for us to display at our launch event back in April during NFT NYC. So, it started really with me talking to Seed Phrase and saying, us agreeing, we have to do a drop together. And then, the natural fit was, well, what is the most iconic thing we could possibly do together? And it's like, okay, well, obviously it's the 7th Rate Punk. So it really stemmed from there. And I was talking to some people about this last night after our event at the Swarovski store, which is there's so many incredible stakeholders involved in this event and in this collection and collaborators, Seed Phrase. Obviously it's not done with CryptoPunks, but just using CryptoPunks as a muse. There's Swarovski, there's Clara Silver, there's Christie's, and it's just it feels like such an incredible marriage and meeting of minds that everyone is, kind of equally excited and inspired by what we have dreamt up together. And I really think of merch as the architect of this drop. And that's ultimately my vision for merch, is for merch to serve as a conduit between these worlds. So I think this drop is the complete embodiment of that goal. And that's something that we're absolutely going to expand on moving forward.
Well, I'll wish you all the best, and looking forward to what you sort of continue to launch next. And I'll be looking with a very keen eye. And I guess maybe just a thank you, I guess, on behalf of Punk, not to sort of say that I speak on behalf of all punks, but just putting us on the map with the likes of Christie's and Swarovski, and getting our name out there and continuing to build in a graceful way, which is kind of nice to sort of see for crypto punks. And I'm always down for a nice hoodie. So thanks.
I appreciate it. Thank you.
We didn't sort of get into this as well. So what was your first NFT? I didn't really recollect me asking you that.
Well, my first NFT, it's so funny. I will never forget this. Obviously, spring of 21, my idea at that time was, okay, I'll become like the real estate maven of the metaverse. So I was looking at real estate in in various metaverses. And I'll never forget sitting on my sofa thinking, okay, should I buy this one CryptoPunk or these 10 pieces of land in crypto voxels? And of course, thinking that I was going to be, the future kind of go to, real estate kind of entrepreneur of the metaverse for fashion brands. I was like, okay, well, clearly I should buy these crypto voxel pieces of land. So, I guess you would say my first NFT is kind of the land deeds of my metaverse plots, both in Decentraland and crypto voxels. But obviously that evolved quickly. I realized that was not I was not meant to be in real estate, so I pivoted. One of our dearest closest friends is Tom Sachs, who is
I love
an
Tom
incredible
Sachs.
contemporary artist. Yeah, so he
Yeah.
launched the Tom Sachs Rocket Factory that
Yes.
spring, or that summer.
That
Summer
was such a
20.
fun drop.
Oh,
I've got one of his rockets in my lounge room right now. That was such a fun
yeah.
drop he did.
It
Yeah.
was incredible. So that was my first real, like, getting bitten by the NFT bug in terms of, like, taking part in a mint, checking OpenSea, trading at every hour of, waking up at 3 a.m. and like checking OpenSea. So I think that was really, in the sense that you probably mean, like, that was my first NFT, was, the Tom Sachs Rocket Factory project. But
Gotcha.
yeah, the first time I ever paid for something with Ethereum was for land on crypto voxels.
Gotcha. That's always a good start. It's always an interesting question to ask people. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm still bullish on crypto voxels. I mean, I've held. I don't know. I haven't visited it in a while, but I have my MetaMuse gallery there. I actually hired I hired architects to build Mies van der Rohe's Farnsworth house in crypto voxels, which I own, which is, one of the most important kind of modernist structures of the mid 20th century, by Mies van der Rohe, who was a German architect. It's the original one is in Plano, Illinois. So,
Oh wow.
so I'm still bullish on crypto voxels. I'm
I'll
holding.
I'll have to come and check it out. But you might be
Yeah.
right. I think all the things that become cool are old, and they go through these cycles, right? Like record players, and you get a little bit nostalgic around them. So there might be coupling in. Who knows?
Oh, totally. I
Uh,
mean, trends are cyclical.
that's it.
It's funny. There's a fine line between when something, the moment something goes from old to vintage. Like, 1 minute it's old, and then the next day it's vintage, and it's cool again.
Exactly. So just on your CryptoPunk 954, of all the punks you could have chosen, and she's a dev punk, She's got frumpy hair, earring, nerd glasses. Talk us through your buying process of all the traits you're sort of looking for. What sort of stood out for you for 954? Why did you pick 954?
I'm honestly so obsessed with her. Like, she makes me so happy. Every time I see her, I'm just like, this is me. I don't know if she necessarily, but I mean, I'm definitely, pale in complexion. So I love that she's a bino. But she is me. I love the nerd glasses. They've always been one of my favorite traits. The frumpy hair. It's funny because I saw it as like this really elegant kind of 50s housewife bob. Like, and then I saw that it's called the correct attribute title is frumpy hair. I was like, okay, well, not no, but like I really see her as this very, kind of perfectly kind of pristine, which I am not, by the way, but like this is my alter ego, this like pristine kind of blowout 1950s. She wears Balenciaga, but like she's a nerd. And I love that about her. And so, I obviously have always wanted a CryptoPunk, like since, for the last 3.5 years, I've wanted a CryptoPunk. So finally this summer, I was like, I had like imposter syndrome knowing that this drop was coming up. Like it was all about CryptoPunks. I was working with Seed Phrase, working with Claire Silver, who's, arguably another one of the most iconic punks with her pink hair punk. I was like, I cannot bring this to market and not be part of the community myself. So I was like seriously looking at punks. There was a lot of action in over the last few weeks. This is like late July. And then I sent, you mentioned Noah. Noah is, my go-to sort of punk advisor. I always talk to him about punks. He so graciously has sent me some incredible punks over the years. And so I sent him a punk. I was like, oh, I love this punk. But it just sold. Like, do you know of a similar one? Or I've always wanted a bino. And so he sent me the punk that I loved as a bino. So it was a very similar punk that I was looking at that had sold that, wasn't a bino, but had the frumpy hair and had the nerd glasses. So I was like, oh my God, I'm obsessed with her. And she wasn't listed. And she came from, the prior owner had claimed her, which is like, so she has the most pristine provenance. Um, and I just fell in love with her. So Noah so kindly helped make the sale happen. And I couldn't be more happy with my purchase. I really am just like I aspire to be like her.
You've done well. She's a beautiful punk. Sort of reminds me of the one. I don't know if you ever watched the Wonder Years, but that show with the French Savage.
Yeah, yeah, totally. I also, but it's funny. I mentioned Matt and John came last night, and John complimented me on my punk, and I was like, huh. It's just, that there's no higher compliment than like when John compliments you on your punk. I'm just like, oh my God, this is the ultimate. Where do I go from here?
Yeah, amazing. And if you look across the punk community, who would be your favorite punk personalities, do you think?
Oh my gosh. Well, I mean, like, Seed Phrase obviously is amazing. Claire, as I mentioned, 6529 is obviously iconic. There's so many good ones. There's so many good ones. I've come across a number of punks that, obviously I've gotten to know recently through being in the punk Discord and being on the punk Telegram. But yeah, I mean, there's so many amazing punks out there.
And you've named some pretty good ones there as well. And how would you describe punk culture for you?
Punk culture to me, it's almost like an if you know type of thing. It's just they're discreet, yet they're powerful, they're supportive, they're tight knit. It's just, the punk community is a community that I hugely respect, even taking the artwork out of it just as a community. And I think, that quiet luxury analogy that I draw to traditional fashion, I think has more legs to it than just thinking about, the artistic side of the punk community. I think there's this undercurrent of, just kind of quiet confidence in punks. That's something I really am drawn to and respect a lot.
Well said. And do you have a view on V1 punks? Like, how do you feel about V1 punks?
Do I have a view? I don't have a view on V1 punks. No, I should. That's a great question. What's your view on V1 punks?
I think they have a place in history. I mean, first and foremost, they are punks. They were the original ones that everyone went to claim. But I guess there's elements of the community and parts of it of the history and the narrative behind it probably isn't great. So there's some negatives around that. But for me, generally speaking, I think it's net positive for punks in general. I think it adds to the story and the conversation and the discourse of punks. And I think it just adds to attention accrual over time, which brings value back to the collection overall. So I don't ever feel threatened by them. But it's just always interesting to hear if people have a certain perspective on them. Some hate them, some love them. I mean, they can be quite divisive. But yeah.
Yeah, I mean, look, what's that saying that like no press is bad press? I feel like even elements of history that are maybe more sort of polarizing than others, I think ultimately just feed into a kind of broader cultural context and storyline.
Yeah, absolutely. And so, like, and I say from both sides too. I think on the one side of the fence, V1 punks just want to be seen, and then it's almost like you're the ignored stepbrother or stepsister that we just don't want to talk about. And so then they get both sides of it, right? And yeah, but yeah, so it's part of our history and story, and it'll probably continue to be so. But Colby, this was super fun. And again, congratulations on your drop at merch. Hope it all goes well for you. I'll be watching with a keen eye. I guess a final question before we close off the interview. But if you could pass on a message to the next hour of your Punk954, what would you like to say to them?
I would say just, give her, be her physical embodiment that she deserves because she's so fabulous. Like I said, I spend all day looking at this punk in my, various platforms and just even on my phone. And I think she's really impressive and she's great. And I aspire to be, she's my muse. She's my mini muse. So I aspire to be like her physical embodiment. And yeah, just, take good care of her and represent those binos and those nerds. And, the Frumpy, fantastic. It's a fantastic attribute.
Amazing. Thanks so much again for jumping on podcast. Wish you all the best with merch. Any closing comments and, what's the best way for people to find you?
Yeah. So obviously, on Twitter is we're merch MMERCH. So don't forget that double M. I'm Mini Muse, MINNIE _ETH. And yeah, just keep up to date. Our website obviously is you can keep up to date on our website in terms of the auction, the allow list, the public mint, timing. And yeah, just we have a Discord. Feel free to join our Discord and DM us if you have any questions. And yeah, we're excited. We're excited to push this live. It's been really a full throttle, last few months putting this together. And I'm just super proud of the final product. And I'm excited to see how the community responds.
Thanks, Colby. And thanks for everybody for listening. We'll be back next week with another punk.